I dropped 8 pounds in 3 days, and I didn't count my calories or my macros, and I didn't take any weird supplements. And it wasn't really a diet like everybody thinks, not in the way that you've been taught. So what did I do instead? Well, most people overlook it, but once I figured this out, it unlocked everything. So listen, I'll walk you through every step. But first, I want you to know the weight that you see in the mirror, it's not just fat. I mean, that's what we all obsess over, but it's the inflammation in your body, it's the water retention, it's the poor sleep, it's the stress, and your system is just backed up. And here's the hard truth. Most people that are trying to lose weight, chasing fat loss, their body is in survival mode. And there's no way you're gonna lose weight when that's the case. Your body wants to hold on to everything it can because your system is just overloaded. We're eating too much processed food, we're stressed out to the max, we don't barely move, and we're not putting enough of the right stuff in to flush all that stuff out. And this is why so many people just hit a wall or nothing happens. They basically plateau before they've even began, because their body's just so out of balance. It's inflamed, it's bloated. You're stuck before the fat burning even gets a chance to start. So your body isn't thinking of doing that, and your body's one of the best fat burning systems there is. It's designed to stay lean and healthy. That's the way it was for centuries. It's just the last 40, 50 years that things have fallen apart. But listen, I wanna stop here and I wanna tell you a little story about myself because I kind of feel like a pretty healthy guy. And I get blood work done often, and I work out quite a bit, but my diet, it's not always dialed right in like I would like it to be. When I got my blood work done, my doctor actually sat me down and said, you're almost pre-diabetic. And I was like, how can that possibly be? And she's like, well, how much sugary things do you eat? And I started to think about it, and I mean, at work, there's always somebody bringing cookies or muffins, or there's all these things showing up, and I'll have a couple here and there. I mean, I'll eat pretty good all day, but then sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 cookies, right? And so I was looking at everything. When you start to punch in the calories in these things, I was almost pre-diabetic, and I couldn't believe it, right? Because I consider myself healthy. So that's why I did all this stuff, and that's why I started to make these changes. And I mean, most people, I did the same things. We try and push harder, right? We cut the food out, we'll add in more workouts, or we try and do a bunch of cardio to burn more calories, because most of us think we have a fat problem. That's what we see in the mirror. You're retaining fluid, your digestive system isn't working properly. And I mean, a lot of us are in that position right now because the food is messed up, the medical system is messed up. And I mean, at one point I was doing fasted workouts, I cut my carbs out, so much stuff about the keto stuff. I mean, I was eating clean, what I felt was clean, but I wasn't really losing weight. And I mean, I'd have the cookies or I had brain fog, and I mean, I was just frustrated, right? I wanted to try something different and was wondering what was going on with my body. And that's when I realized it's not really about doing more. It's about removing some of the stuff that's slowing you down. I mean, poor hydration, gut dysfunction, all these things are clogging each one of those systems. And think of it as a blocked drain. If you don't unclog the blocked drain, it doesn't matter what you put in. No diet is gonna ever work, just like nothing's gonna go down that drain. So what did I do? I just completely stopped dieting. I actually hate that word. I mean, the first 3 letters of it are die, and I can see why, because diets suck. I hate them. So I stopped with all the diet stuff and all the, stuff you see and the things you want to try. This person lost that much weight. They usually gain it all back anyway. So instead of fighting against my body, I started to think I'm going to clear out the junk and I'm going to get everything flowing again. It wasn't a cleanse. It wasn't a detox. I thought of it more like a reset. And it all started with one single mind shift. One thing that made it easy to think. I didn't focus on flushing or restricting things from my diet. The one shift that I started to think of, to reboot my digestion, to normalize my blood sugar, to flatten my belly. And I mean, I wanted to kick the cravings too, right? It wasn't about just losing weight. It was about moving the resistance that it takes, because if it's so hard every time we we try and get into shape, it's never gonna happen. And once I made this shift, the results started to come fast. I mean, it's surprising how quickly your body will adapt. And you gotta remember, I'm not special. I'm no different than any one of you. I struggle with all these things. I have stress in my life. I did this for myself and tried it. And I mean, it's 3 days. Anybody can do this. And so I wanna show you the exact method I follow because it's super simple and it's super effective. So step one, I started to think of flow in and flow out. And so I committed to 1 gallon of water per day. I did a whole video on this where I did this for a week. And I mean, it's an absolute game changer. This one step can change things. But I didn't just drink any water. I added electrolytes to it and I put a pinch of sea salt in there just to keep the balance, right? Because if you start drinking all this water, you can flush out all your minerals and everything. And I mean, this helped. I feel like it helped reduce cortisol, the belly fat hoarder, right? That keeps belly fat on you. You're never gonna lose belly fat if you're stressed to the max and your body's constantly dumping cortisol. You're in that protection mode. The lion's chasing you and your body's not gonna burn fat then, right? With all the processed foods, like, you know, I cut that stuff out. I feel like I flushed all this excess chemicals and sodium and everything that they're just loaded in to make them highly satiating and make you wanna eat more and more and more. When I first started this, my digestion improved like within 24 hours. I noticed my poops were a little different. You know, it seemed like I was a little thinner in the face and I didn't feel like as puffy anywhere and my stomach kind of felt a little flatter, right? So, I mean, the changes happen fast. Step two, I thought of the 3 B's. I've heard this before, but I wanted to incorporate these kind of a little different this time. And I mean, I've done breathing in the past. That's the first B. I've done the Wim Hof stuff and I just kind of committed to it. I don't really like it. Like it's a little, I don't super enjoy it, but you know what? I committed to do it every day for 3 days. And I've been doing it like probably 3 or 4 times a week now. I kind of kept up with it. And you know, most of us don't breathe deeply. We're sitting around all day, we're doing nothing, and we're not breathing deeply. So we're not utilizing our lungs, we're not oxygenating our body. And if you oxygenate your body, cancer can't live in an oxygenated environment. So just think about that for a minute. Now the second B is bouncing. And I know you might think that's crazy, but your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like your heart to pump your blood. It doesn't have something to pump it around. It relies on us moving, and bouncing is one of the best ways. And your lymphatic system, it gets rid of toxins. So of course you want to keep that moving and keep that working the best you do. People talk about these brushing techniques and everything. If you get a little rebounder, we got a little cheap one upstairs. Amanda, of course, wants a new one. And you know, the one with the handle. And one of the springs did break on the rebounder. You know, maybe I do need to get a little lighter. But yeah, bouncing. That was B number 2. B number 3 was break a sweat. Most of us don't even break a sweat, and this can be done. You don't have to exercise, but I mean, I would recommend exercise. I think it's great. But you can go in the sauna. We have a steam sauna at the house, and at work, I'm lucky we actually got an infrared sauna. So, you know, you want to break a sweat, and that'll get the toxins and everything moving. Remember, we're talking about flushing the system here. We're not talking about changing all these things in our diet, but this, you know, it keeps your lymphatic system moving, which is absolutely essential for detox, immune health, and reducing the bloat in your body. Now, step 3, I wanted to reset my gut. And so I basically did like a gut reset, like kind of a mini protocol. I skipped heavy meals for the first kind of half of my day. And I focused on easy to digest things. Like I'd have bone broth and Greek yogurt in the morning. And then later in the day, I'd have like lighter protein, you know, like eggs or white fish. Not stuff that was super heavy and maybe gonna take a lot of energy to digest. And you know what, the cooked veggies, the fiber stuff, I would eat that later at night too, right? And then I'd also stop eating after 7. That gave my gut a full like 14 to 16 hours to have a break. And you know, that just made me feel way better, especially my sleeping, right? I think I've learned that you shouldn't eat like 3 to 4 hours before you could go to bed. And I mean, I've done some crazy fasts, and the longer that you don't eat before you go to bed, I feel like more healing and repair can happen. Digestion consumes a lot of energy in your body. And that's why if you start eating from the time you get up, from the time you go to bed, and your body's still digesting food for those first 3 or 4 hours you go to bed, it's not good. It's not good for your sleep. Your body only has so much energy every day. And if it's spending it all digesting, if it's spending 18, 20 hours digesting because you go to bed, you only sleep for 7 hours or 6 hours, and your body's digesting for those 3 hours, it's not gonna work. It's not good, right? Your body doesn't have time to heal and repair. And I mean, there's stuff online. If you get sick, if you get cancer, stop eating, and your body will heal itself, right? And I mean, if you're not feeding it the sugars and all the things that cancer survives off of, it can die out. I mean, you see these stories online all the time. But I mean, I never felt bloated. I had better sleep doing this stuff, and I just felt lighter within the first couple of days. Now, the next thing I did, I've done this in the past over COVID. I went up to the lake here and I was doing cold plunges every day, which I mean are super, I feel like, that's a really good thing for a bunch of different reasons. But I didn't want to go up in the lake again, and I started just doing cold showers. I just wanted to make it simple. I'd do 1 cold shower per day. I'd get my normal hot shower, warm shower, and then I'd turn it right to cold. And then it would start coming out, and I'd try and last for a minimum of a minute and, try and get 2. I know it sounds crazy, but it feels like it kind of snapped my nervous system out of that stressed, inflamed state. And then, I'd follow that up with my breathing or, some light movement, maybe some stretching or stuff. And this combo, I mean, I feel like, the dopamine that you get, that, all the, like Andrew Huberman and Peter T and all them talk about after the cold plunge or after the cold shower, it just makes you feel great. And I mean, one of the biggest things I find, it's hard to turn that water right to cold and stay in that cold water. It's some days I'm just like 10 seconds in and I'm like, I'm not gonna last a minute. But I just keep doing it because it's hard. And I mean, the biggest thing I noticed about that was the mental strength that you build by doing something hard, right? And you hear those guys talk about these things, right? It's, you do some hard things, force yourself to do it. Life seems easier, right? And so then step 5 is like this morning flush routine, and I have 16 ounces of lemon water. I put a pinch of salt in there and a little apple cider vinegar, and then I'd usually go for my walk, kind of to get everything moving, right? And the other thing about walking there, I was walking fasted. So, I hadn't eaten anything all night, and since after 7, 3, 4 hours sometimes before I go to bed. And you're walking fasted, so you're probably just burning fat, right? All your glucose has been burned off. And then after that, I'd have some breakfast. And I felt like this small rhythm change kind of shifted everything. My digestion was better. I had more energy. I had a flatter stomach, within a day or 2 of doing this. And you got to remember, I only did this for 3 days, so it's not like I did it for a week or a month, right? Although I'm continuing to do a lot of the things right now. And I mean, by day 3, I weighed myself, I think it was a Tuesday night, and then I did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and actually weighed myself Saturday morning. By that time, I had dropped 8 pounds. And it probably wasn't all body fat, but I feel like a certain percentage of it was, and it was probably my body flushing things out. I got my lymphatic system moving for 3 days straight. My gut felt lighter, like I had more energy, and I wasn't drinking a bunch of caffeine. I usually have decaf coffee in the morning. And I just felt like I was sleeping deeper. My face wasn't as puffy. I was a little more clear and locked in, just making all these small changes. And none of them were super hard to do, right? It wasn't like just a physical transformation for me. It felt like it was mental, emotional. And I feel like I reset my metabolism. And here's the thing, the results, they didn't fade after the 3 days because they were compounding. I was doing all these simple things that made a huge difference in the end. And I wasn't burning myself thinking, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. I just never felt restricted. I felt like I wanted to do these things because of that mind shift. And if you want to try, doing this, I would highly suggest it, because I feel like every time you try a diet, or every time I try a diet or do something different, I do learn a few things. And when things work out and they have such a profound effect on you, it shifts your mind into thinking. And if you're constantly gaining weight, slowly each week, each month, you're kind of going the wrong way, and then you kind of turn the corner and you start going the other way, it makes you feel hopeful, that you can actually lose some weight and get in shape, right? And I mean, basically, I felt like I was just resetting my systems. So, you know what? If you're getting older, even if you're younger and you feel like you're stuck or you're frustrated and you're tired of starting over and trying all these different diets, this might be a good starting point for you. And if you want some help with this, put a comment down below, reset. We'll start a conversation. My email is in the description. Shoot me an email. I'm on Instagram too at Rapid Transformation Lab. Send me a DM. I would love to set up a protocol for you. I mean, I love helping people lose weight. It's so rewarding when people start to make changes and start to make life. You got to remember, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Each one of us eats something different, lives a different life. We all have a diet specific to us, which means we all have problems specific to us. That's why these cookie cutter diets never work. You have to try things and adjust and try things and adjust. Some things will work, some things won't. And you know, it's just like that. It's never linear. It's like entrepreneurship. When you start businesses, it's all over the place. And losing weight and your health is the same thing. And I mean, on top of that, it's a moving target. So it can be tricky because things are always happening. Things are always changing, right? But I don't want you to think you don't need to overhaul your whole life. You just need to remove what's in your way. And sometimes 8 pounds can make an enormous difference. So if you want to give it a try, I'll see you on the other side. Send me an email or DM me on Instagram. Talk to you soon.